I'm seeing how deeply wounded humanity is to this point where most people do not know who they are, and they don't even know how to find out who they are. And I'm realizing it's it's a big part of my medicine to help women, mothers specifically, remember who they are through working with the root, the sacral, the solar plexus, and even the heart chakra. The first chakras, I have been doing like deep healing and clearing work, and I've come to know that each chakra represents 3 years of life. So the root is 0 to 3. It goes 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. 7 chakras, 21 years of life. I've been working a lot with ages 0 to 3 because my daughter is in her root chakra years right now, and so it's like a mirror for my ages 0 to 3. Profound. I've mostly been in my solar plexus right now, doing a lot of work. The mushrooms have been holding me deeply when it comes to this. But I feel like most people are so stuck in ages 0 to 3. Like the wounds that have happened there are mostly unconscious because most of us do not have memories, of what happened when they were 0 to 3. Some of us do. I remember a lot from like when I was in utero, which I know some people have memories, right? Like conscious memories. So, ages 0 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 9. Really 0 to 7, because we're living in that theta brain state. Like everything is a dream. We're living in a very subconscious place, very root and sacral, like our sexual organs, like all of this, has a part to play in this. Like what happened in those years to, like traumatize us and disconnect us from our truth and our knowing of who we are. So many things happen as children to disconnect us from who we are, because I'm watching my daughter. Children come into this world and they know exactly who they are until you make them believe that they are someone who they are not. And that brings me to like the words I believe, that is Pisces energy. We're coming out of the Piscean age into the age of Aquarius, which is I know. And so I'm hearing people having this trouble going from, I was told to believe this and that, whether it was from like my parents, my community, my family. Religion has a huge part to play in this, making people believe things, like tricking people to believe certain things about themselves, about the world, about money, about love, like about relationships, about everything that has created these distortions, these fragments. And we have been like looping, playing out these stories that we believe. And so now we're having to move away from like these false beliefs into the knowing of what is true, our soul's truth. And it's like, well, how do we get there, And I'm sitting with this because people need to know how to get there. People need to know who they are. If you do not know who you are, and even if you don't know where you came from, like your ancestry, like what happened in there, or even where you came from, meaning like the first 7 years of your life, what happened there, even like past lives or cosmic truths, some of those things can help you get to, where you're supposed to go. But if you don't know who you are, this is like a foundation to living, like the foundation to being about your soul mission and going about your service into this world. Like, why are you here? You won't know why you are here on earth at this time, and I believe everyone is here for a very special reason. If you have a soul, you have a soul mission. But you cannot know what that is if you don't know who you are. Like, know thyself is key. Like, it truly, truly is key. I feel like I know myself so well, so deeply, that no one can like move me from my square or try and make me believe or know that like I am something that I'm not, because I know who I am. And I've actually had troubles throughout my life being so skeptical and so distrusting of people because I know who I am, and I'm like holding so firmly in my knowing that I'm like, okay, back up, like you're trying to, throw me off. So I've had like trust issues that I've had to deal with, because not everyone's here to throw you off your square. Like some people feel you, and that's a whole other story. But how do you know who you are? Do you know who you are? I feel like knowing who you are, you have to start from the beginning. Starting from the beginning is how you came into this world. Do you know your story of emergence? Do you know the story of your mother's pregnancy with you? Your birth story is key to your entire life, because there is a such thing as birth imprints. How we came into this world affects our entire lives, and we can actually regress ourselves back to being born. Many of us were not born in a peaceful, blissful, loving way. Many of our mothers were traumatized when we were born, thus we were traumatized when we were born. And that sets the stage for what comes next, These doctors meddling with you, cutting your cord prematurely, being rough with you. Some people were taken away from their mothers, snapping you out of like your remembrance, like totally severing your remembering where you just came from, which is you like holding your truth of who you are. There's like a birthing revolution going on right now, and I can attest to this because I have my daughter peacefully at home. I believe that her knowing is going to be so intact because my husband, Tubi, and I, like, we are doing so much work within ourselves and like building the space for my daughter's remembrance to, stay with her. Because, this is this is something that is like, oh my gosh, this is so big, this is so heavy. Many indigenous cultures have and had, before colonization, practices where like you commune with the spirit of the baby before they even get here, and you know why they're here, and you do certain rituals and practices to care for the mother and the child. When the baby is born, you help them remember why they're here, because there is an amnesia. There's like some overlay of like forgetfulness, a spell over, in this density that we're in on earth right now, to where we forget. It is so easy to forget who you are when you get out of those 7 years, especially if you're living in the West, especially if, you're being traumatized when you enter into this world in the hospital or the birth center, or even at home sometimes. And I could really go on and on, but I just, do you know who you are? I'm just going to keep saying that. Do you know who you are? Because if you don't, you're going to have to find out. In this next 9-year cycle, we are in, the 9-year right now. I feel like this is going to be a task for people that don't know. And I feel this deep, like, calling to help with that remembrance and with that knowing. And, I'm about to start doing that. For mothers especially, like tapping into that mother's intuition, which is, the intuition is like having that direct line to God at all times. Your intuition is like, you know, your inner compass. It leads you throughout your whole life. Intuition is severed if you don't know who you are. If you don't know who you are, you're disconnected from the truth that you are a sovereign being and that we have free will on this planet. If you don't know who you are, how will you know what comes next? Where you're supposed to go? Yeah. I ended the video, but another thing I remembered real quick that I wanted to say is, you know, if you don't know who you are, you will look for people to tell you who you are. Just like how, you know, religious leaders, like pastors and priests and the imams, they'll tell you what you were to believe in, right? But no one can tell you who you are except for, you know, yourself, the highest aspect of yourself, and source. No one else can tell you who you are. And so, like, you can search all you want, and you can pay this person and this person to give you a reading and access your Akashic records and to tell you about your ancestry and, like, all these things. But, like, if you aren't making that direct connection yourself, I feel like you will always be led astray. The Aquarian age, like, it's a very, we're going into a very sovereign time to remember our sovereignty, to reclaim that, you know? And in this time, like, we can't rely on people to hold our hand like that and lead us astray. And as a collective, you know, like that, this is pretty tough to do because we've been kept in the dark about who we are. You know, the truth of, you know, our femininity and our womb power. You know, the truth about, like, why birth has been so distorted, why women are, like, purposely being traumatized in the medical system. You know, so many truths have been distorted. The indigeneity of the so-called Black American, you know, like, us being from the Americas. So many things have been twisted so you don't remember. Because if you remember who you are, everything changes. We like, the frequency of this planet evolves into, you know, the next level, and we're supposed to evolve, and that's why we all are going to remember who we are, because the up-leveling is inevitable. So even though it might be tough, we're going to get there. Everyone's going to remember who they are at some point.